Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Tommy Swagnuts, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Muted, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
And it was John that brought that to the light, that they would have to relinquish their belief in a sphere if they accept the black swan.
Well then, my bad. Credit where credit's due, John. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, so that's fine. It don't matter to me. But thank you, Neil.
I'm normally pretty good at crediting people who've... Oh, I'm sorry.
Sounded like Armin had a few shots the other day. Was he drinking?
I don't know. Quite possibly.
But that was a good show.
The Bullbuster show, yeah, it was. I listened to it back.
What was the general theme of that one?
It was kind of an open discussion. It was the birthday show for the Black Swan, but we just had general chit-chat about the subject matter in general, really. It was specifically about the Black Swan, but by the same token, it wasn't. Just a good show. Just a good chit-chat.
And then I seen, because I went into the chat yesterday, while I was looking at the chat, and you had Professor Phil Bell saying, who do you think built cities, bridges, aeroplanes, a bunch of other things he said? Flat earthers who left school at 15?
Why does he assume that flat earthers have left school at 15? What's he talking about? Just ad hom.
Exactly.
The more time elapses, the more I think they're in a dying paradigm. I really do.
Yeah, if we don't kill it, quantum mechanics will. It's destined.
I think it's the other way around. I think as a result of quantum mechanics, this has been allowed. This has been tolerated.
You got to explain that to me. What are you talking about? Quantum mechanics.
Much of the heliocentric models debunked by quantum mechanics.
So then how is it still here?
Well, how long has quantum mechanics been around? Quite a significant chunk of time. In our meagre context, sort of half a century is a fairly reasonable amount of time in our context, right? Because we're not here for very long. Nevertheless, it's been around long enough for people to realise that there's a problem at the higher echelons of, let's call it science, if you want to call it that. Well, Like, you can't hold that back forever. It impedes progress in general, what we used to know as scientific terms. That impedes progress. So, what do? Well, you let the old dusty rhetoric fade out. If it goes a little bit too quickly, you put the anchors on a little bit, which they've done.
Which, by the way, that comment really annoys me by Phil Bell, because number one, people are the reason for bridges and cities and airplanes and all that other stuff. Show me the mechanics of doing it on a sphere.
Doesn't
can't,
see us as
because it's
people,
all
Neil.
done on a flat
He sees
plane.
people as people who believe they're on a sphere, and then flat earthers as a separate entity, if you will. So he's saying normal people, that would be good globe-fearing folk, built those bridges. That's what he's saying. Not like you, who all left at school at 15. That's what he's saying, literally, right? From what you've just told me.
Yeah, I know that's what he's saying, but back it up. Back it up. Show me how they built it on this large spinning water ball. You can't, because it cannot be done.
Well, they wouldn't be able to measure an elevation angle on a curved surface.
There you go.
Yeah, they're going to be plotting it out as flat. The fact that they used to be able to justify a tangent plane, that would be a flat plane that was presupposed to be a flat plane meeting a tangent point horizon on a sphere Earth, they can't do that anymore thanks to the black swan. So what are they left with? Well, they're left with measuring and dealing with and building on a flat plane.
It's the only way it could be done.
Well, there's no tangent point. They used to assert that they built on a tangent plane. Yeah, it's all flat, but it's flat because we just find it easier that way because the sphere's so big. So we plot out a tangent point horizon and call that area a tangent plane. Well, okay, so you are doing it flat. Yeah, but flat on a sphere. Imagine lots of little disco light, like a mirror ball. Imagine that. That's what it's like. Obviously, it's not really like that, but in the scale of building, that's how we deal with it. So flat then. Okay, but flat ultimately off a tangent point on a sphere. Yeah, that's what they'd say. Well, if you don't have a tangent point anymore, then you don't have a flat plane on a sphere anymore. You just have a flat plane. And that's precisely how they'll be measuring it. Flat.
Well said.
Yeah, up until now, I've had two hats. One says that the information is just true, therefore it can't but help escape and leak to a certain extent, right? The other says, no, this is being let into the mind's eye of your average Joe. Not precluded, or precluded with limitations if it's going too fast. But too fast implies that there's an end of the race, right? Well, now I believe that more than ever. Mainly because...
I looked up.
Go on.
I looked up the definition of paradox. I think where we were discussing those paradoxes being solved, I think that they are paradoxes.
You can have a mathematical paradox. So just because it's not real in physicality doesn't mean it's not a mathematical paradox. Is that what you're trying to get at?
No. No, a paradox is from an acceptable premise. And if 95% of the world accepts it as a premise, then it is a paradox.
Gotcha. So you have, by that standard then, solved the paradox. Because if you relinquish the prerequisite that must be taken as read before you can have the paradox, then you do solve the paradox. Kudos to you.
Yeah. Which there's a lot of paradoxes in heliocentrism. Like we discuss them as affirming the consequent or, logical fallacies, but they think of them just as, well, that's just paradoxical nature of their existence,
Yeah, we don't live in a paradoxical world. I don't often find I encounter any paradoxes in physical reality. Quite the contrary. Everything is in beautiful, harmonious balance.
Yep. Yep.
I'm sure by definition you can't have a paradox actually exist in physical reality, right? It can't, by its definition. It can't be in existence because it's contradictory. It's like saying if A then B and also if A not B simultaneously. It violates the law of non-contradiction to have a quote-unquote paradox exist in physical reality, right?
Well, here's the definition. A statement or proposition that, despite sound or apparently sound reasoning from an acceptable premise, leads to a conclusion that seems senseless, logically unacceptable, or self-contradictory.
Yeah. In other words, it violates the law of non-contradiction to have it actually exist in reality. The premise can be violated, but who cares?
Well, if the premise is proven false, then the paradox falls.
It's like saying the grandfather paradox, right? You can't go back in time and shoot your own grandfather, right? Because if you did, you wouldn't have existed to pull the trigger on, your grandfather and kill him in the past, because he wouldn't have then existed to create you in the future. Therefore, a paradox, right? The grandfather paradox, they call it. Yeah, but we can't travel in time, rendering the paradox pointless, because not only can you not go back in time to shoot your own grandfather, you can't go back in time.
Well, that's not fun. You can't make any good movies that way.
Well, I called it a plot hole, Neil.
Well, if you give time a direction and try to assign an orthogonality to it, that's how you end up with that paradox.
Sorry, I tried to wrap my head around what was just said. Which paradox are we talking about now?
The grandfather paradox, it assigns time a direction and assumes that you can travel in the opposite direction of its flow.
Right. So it's an entropy violation then.
But entropy don't even have a direction, It's neither one do. So yeah, pretty much.
Now, the entropy thing, they describe it as the arrow of time.
Yeah, they can describe it that way, but that doesn't make it what it is. It's not a direction.
No,
That's
I
what
suppose you're not. You're
heliocentrists
right. It's only a direction if I qualify it in that way and then plot it. So no, you're right.
So did I mention that I went on Jose G. Gonzalez thing? Just briefly, quickly. And I asked him a few questions. And when I asked him about I give him credit, he did read my chat to the people that he had on live. And they came back with a question when I asked, how do you have gas pressure out of container? He said, does it need a container?
Yeah, it does.
But they proposed a question back to me. And Jose G., to give him credit, he said, well, isn't it natural law? And I really don't know what anybody's thinking anymore.
I have to take what they say at face value. Does it need a container? Yes, it does need a container. And then you repeat your question. How can we have gas pressure without a container? Now, it's up to them at that point to contest it. No, you don't need a gas in a container. All right, can you show me that? Because it's a natural law.
And then the reason for the horizon is Earth curves. That is the killer right there.
Right, the horizon isn't Earth curve.
There's another one about the geometric horizon only existing in mathematics. I'd like to contest that as well.
Depends. The geometric horizon implies that we're talking very specifically about an Earth curve edge horizon, formerly known as, I should say. Go on, feel free to contest it if you introduce something that's other than the geometric horizon. Go ahead.
Well, when they pull out their sheet of paper and they draw a circle and put a little stick man on top and draw a line from his eye to the edge of that circle, there's no horizon there. There's no. It's just a 2D drawing. So the geometric horizon.
That's incorrect. I mean, what they're defining as their geometric horizon is marked with an X and labelled horizon. Now, you're saying that isn't a horizon. Yeah, you're correct in that. But it is their geometric horizon in their maths, and that's the only place it exists, labelled as a horizon. You're saying that's not a horizon. I agree.
Right, it'd have to be a physical obstruction to be a geometric horizon.
Yeah, and it is in the maths. It's got a hidden value that you can ascribe to things that are geometrically blocked by way of Muppet vision. So in the maths, it is a geometric obstruction. They claim that's transposable onto physical reality at the horizon, the point where the sky appears to meet the ground.
That's my point. When they bring it to the maths, right, you can only do that with measurement. But they're denying the measurement now. So you can't use the calculation anymore.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. Yeah, you can't use the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking earth curve maths anymore. But when do they? When did you last see them presented here? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm certain that they use them elsewhere where no one's clued up enough to call them on it, but ultimately speaking, you can't use those maths anymore. They're bunk. We've debunked them.
Yeah, so to say it exists in the maths would be wrong if you know that the horizon isn't geometric.
Yeah, I'll half agree with you. For the reasons I've given.
Right, when the rumpus says it, he's trying to use a trick because he's claiming there's still a measurement. Talking about the maths.
Yep. They need the measurement.
They denied the maths when they said refracted.
Yeah, so they've got nowhere to go. They've denied their own geometry. So the horizon's not geometric, so the horizon's not Earth curve, so they've no longer got a claim. So they can't go back to the Earth curve maths and say, based on my measurement of physical geometry, I'm going to assert that the horizon we see is within 3% of the horizon that's geometric and can't be measured. Well, you can't measure it, and it's been debunked by the black swan. So it can't be within 3% of it either. So going back to the Earth curve maths and just blagging that, well, we haven't got a measurement, but the measurement we've got is within 3% of the measurement we can't get. No, I'm afraid not. You actually need to have a measurement to base this maths on. And you haven't got one anymore. We've taken it away from you. We've taken R from you. So what use of the maths? They're based on R. We've debunked it.
That would be like saying that phlogiston only exists in the maths, you know?
Yeah, it's a good example. Right, I could say that. I could make that statement. Phlogiston and the maths for it only exist in the maths. Well, no, because phlogiston's claimed to be a real thing in terms of burning. So when it comes to describing it, the description in maths is describing physical reality. That's what they're trying to quantify and qualify with the maths. Well, if it's not in physical reality, it doesn't exist only in the maths anymore. It just doesn't exist. Well, that's the same with Earth curve. I'm going to stop saying that, You've convinced me. It doesn't only exist in the maths. It doesn't exist at all. If it existed in the maths, that would mean that it was based on physical reality and they had a measurement for it, and they don't. Yeah, good point.
Do you guys see this? I'm buried in 1.5 feet of snow.
Yeah, it's a bummer. It's the same here. My heater's broken in the car. I say broken. It's not broken enough to fix. It only works above 3,000 RPM if the car's hot. So I took it in there like, yeah, probably the heater matrix. I'm like, no, I'm not spending that. I'm like, I'll just rev the car higher. I'll stay in a lower gear.
Dang, Neil, we only got a couple inches down here in Allentown. Now it all turned to rain now.
Yeah, that's what they said happened in the city too. But I don't know, upstate New York where I am, we're covered in snow.
How very British of you to discuss the weather.
Do you have a fail open thermostat on your vehicle?
No.
Fail closed?
Yeah, it's fine. The engine temperature's maintained quite happily. The thermostat's fine.
But you can maintain, like, if the thermostat fails with the fail open, it won't overheat. But things like your heater will do what you're talking about, fail open.
I might get it checked. I'll get the garage to check it over. It might be, like you say, held open. So yeah, it wouldn't overheat, would it? It's just never going to close.
And it takes forever for it to heat up. Like you said, you have to get it over 3,000 RPM, not 3,000 RPMs, but it seems like it takes forever to get it to warm up.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be the thermostat. I'll have to ask them at the garage to check it. I don't think it's going to be a very harsh winter here, so I'm not too fussed this season. I might address it at some point. It's our beta car, though, you know. So, minimal. I want to spend the minimum amount to keep it happily working. Sorry, whoever is in Discord, go ahead.
And Nathan, I was going to say, in regards to what he was saying earlier about how the as far as the horizon and everything, the math of it and everything, you know who riding on eggshells is, right?
No.
He comes in Discord, and I guess he has like a YouTube show or something. And he'll record every now and then and get some really good topics going. But so last night I realized that he's kind of changing his argument and trying to like finesse it to where he's trying to tell us, like, wouldn't you agree that we can't really use optics no more because like because their arguments, you know, null and void at this point. Now they're trying to say like, yeah, but can't we just discredit that? Like, we need to find something else, right? Because all these variables and everything. But I was just like, wow, they're really like their backs up against the wall or something, because if they're trying to just say like, let's not talk about that, let's not talk about the black swan no more, just because it, you know, it completely destroys their model. But I was just saying if you have heard that or not. But
I just don't let them. You know, when these people say, I don't want to talk about the black swan, oh, right, I do. It completely debunks your claim of a sphere Earth, so I would expect you to not want to talk about it. In fact, after 2 straight years of them definitely not wanting to talk about it, embarking the debunking of their own claim, their claim being, I can measure Earth physically, that's geometry, and we've got an Earth curve edge physical tangent point to measure. That's the horizon, their claim of Earth curve. Well, the moment that's refracted, it's no longer measurable, and the end of their claim. They've spent 2 years telling us that they can't measure it. It's the end of their claim. So what, they don't want to talk about it anymore because their claim's dead? Yeah, I'd expect that. Just keep ramming it down their throats.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and another reason about the, you know, talking about it existing in mathematics, ideal gases exist in mathematics, you know, but we still use them to talk about gas behavior. So they're accepted as, you know, being semi-real. The horizon or geometric horizon doesn't fit that criteria.
Right, you've got to have something
can't be
to qualify.
semi-real.
You've got to have something to qualify it as a sphere, to say, well, we know it's a sphere, so therefore the fact that we have a refracted horizon is neither in or there because we are absolutely certain it's a sphere. So therefore we have to come up with some workaround to let us still work within the confines and paradigm of a sphere with the limitation of the atmosphere that we have to encounter. Now, when you debunk atmosphere and you debunk the sphere beneath their feet, and when they're actually measuring it, they're measuring a flat plane, there's nothing else to claim for a sphere anymore. Yeah, shocking. They don't want to talk about it. Yeah. That's okay. I said this 2 years ago. Yeah, it's going to get quiet around here. That's what I said 2 years ago. They're not going to want to talk about this because they can't get around it. And when they do, they debunk their own claim by saying refraction. Non-measurable, non-geometric. So, where we're at 2 years later, have we somehow disappeared with the winning argument under our belt? No. It's just no one wants to step in the ring anymore. Why would you? And by that I mean you're going to lose if you've got a globe belief, because there's nothing to back it anymore. We've taken it all away from you. So does that mean that suddenly we're going to need to disappear? No. We'll maybe need more suppression. if I'm incorrect in my hunch that actually this is going a very different way, this is the dismantling and deconstruction of an old paradigm that needs to be phased out, that would be the heliocentric paradigm. And the smarter, brighter people of the future won't be on a globe.
Well, that song that your daughters were singing, that kind of points in that direction.
Absolutely. That's what I said to John a moment ago. Previously, my two hats were, maybe it's just because it's the truth and you can't hold that back, so you need to keep a controlled opposition narrative in place all the time so that it's kept at surface level in the mind's eye. It needs to be ridiculed. Everyone needs to know what flat Earth is, so you know it needs to be ridiculed. So then you keep very tight control over it. What you don't let happen is what's happened, if that was the case. Now, I'm saying that with my, kind of hunch that it is going the latter way, which is, no, this is a lie that has to be taken to pieces. You can't just drop it immediately. It would cause chaos. So you've got to slowly deconstruct the paradigm. Well, I think we're part of that, and we're doing it for free. As far as the powers that should be are concerned, I mean.
Hey Nathan. So there's a bunch of talk in chat, right? So I'm bringing it up to even the flat earthers' attention that these globers, they have a globe model, they have globe maths, they have globe physics. Everything that they say is true to a globe model, but it does not fit reality. So what everybody is trying to do is take that globe model out of their head and insert reality, but they're completely ignoring reality. So they're not technically wrong about the globe and its globe maths and its globe physics and this and that, because it is just a model. They're just completely denying reality.
Yeah, that's in essence what you have. People who have chosen their religious faith in favour of reality.
Hey, Sean, Chaos. I tell them that every day now. I even tell the flat earthers, like, dude, why are you arguing a system within a system for a system about a system? Like, why are we even going that route? Because of course it makes sense to them. It's been designed to make sense in their model, in their world, in their creation of it. So that's why we've got to find new angles.
Right. And I've just come to, it's not like a realization, but like down to its simplest form. Yeah, okay, yeah, your globe maths and all this. Yeah, of course they work on a globe, but show me that in reality. You can't.
You said find new angles? Well, that's the problem. They can't have these angles on a curved surface.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Yeah, it's all well and good at working on a globe model if we're not on a globe. Doesn't matter how well you've modelled Earth as a globe, if we're not on a globe, who cares? As I say, we've debunked all of these aspects that you just detailed, so what they're clinging on to are the remnants, the ashes of their paradigm. It's no longer viable. So, if you want to cling on to something that's dead in the water, then that's up to you, right? It's your prerogative.
Well, if your basis for thinking you're on a globe is angle measurements, right? That would mean that your globe religion is an anti-flat Earth religion.
Yep. Because at that stage, you've got an understanding how you can't acquire them on a sphere. Or at least you do if you hang around here.
Well, like even Al-Biruni, at the point that he measured the height of the mountain, he assumed the Earth was flat, and he measured it that way. So it would seem to be an anti-flat Earth religion, where he then turned around and claimed he measured a sphere.
Alrighty then.
Maybe this is why they spend so much money with propaganda. It's just, it'll never stick if they don't. You just keep on ramming it down people's throats constantly.
What's up, Tent?
Good morning. For some reason, I had to reboot the computer to show the link for today's show. It was showing from 12:55 last night, and it wasn't refreshing.
I was wondering where you are because you're in the chat talking to me, and you're not here when it
I
started.
know, it's weird. I'm saying, wait a minute, where's the show? How was everyone's weekend?
Ugh.
You're fine. Chicken soup.
I just had, my wife made me some the other day. It was really good, like a broth.
Yeah.
So I tried to do it now, and it tasted nothing like hers.
Well, that's because you put too much water in with the chicken.
No, it comes in this container. It's like broth from. But I realized what she did. She put a little bouillon in to give it flavor. So once I added that, then it was good.
Go to my chicken soup recipe on my cooking channel and do it exactly the way I do it, and you'll be fine.
I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. No, don't add too much water. You want that stock. So anything new? And anyone trying to tell us the 90 doesn't mean right angle?
No, but you got Professor Phil Bell saying, who do you think built cities and skyscrapers and bridges and aeroplanes? Flat earthers who left school at 15?
Oh my gosh, what an ad hom. Zenith distance and 90 means only one thing. Right angle. Because you're using an angle measuring device. Can't have a right angle on a curved surface.
And how does he know that those people weren't flat earthers, but they, since
What's that got to do with the argument?
Yeah. He's making an assumption.
He lost to the sextant.
I don't even think he's a professor, to be honest with you. I don't think he's what he says he is. He's a fraud.
That's what people say when they can't beat 90.
I agree.
Don't even pay attention to that junk. The dip measurement at sea and all the other corrections are for ascertaining a true altitude of 90 minus what your angle to the star is, or subtraction, whichever way someone would like me to say it. They jumped all over me because I said minus rather than subtract. It's so funny.
How dare you?
Maybe it's not the fact that you're using 90, it's because you're a flat earther using 90,
Yeah, that's it. See, they must use 90 too. It's anytime they say zenith, their argument is over. Anytime they say 90, their argument is over. Anytime they say sextant angle measurement, their argument is over.
Guess he's starting the show, right?
Well, I'll go get a cup of tea.
60 seconds, I will.
Then I'll wait. Good morning, Nathan.
Morning. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Yo, yo, yo.
Morning. Morning.
Good morning, good to have you all, excited bunch that you are.
It's good to be here.
That's good to know. In the pre-show we were discussing the fact that we've won. We've taken apart and dismantled literally every single globe argument there is to claim a sphere with. As a result, they don't want to talk about the black swan. They don't talk about 90 degrees. They don't talk about elevation angles. Well, that's because they've lost. Any evidence you can have an elevation angle, or acquire one, whilst using a curved adjacent?
Impossible. They have to work with a 90 and a zenith, which is one and the same when you're using the sextant. So how do you get your 90? Where'd you get your right angle?
Where'd you get your zenith?
Yes. It's always zenith, the highest point in the sky, directly above you.
How'd you acquire that?
Well, when you're using the sextant, it requires a right triangle.
Don't mention 90.
Well, they don't like 90 or zenith or straight lines or horizontal.
No, they quite like zenith. It's one step removed from acquiring a 90 degree to it. So they just acquire the zenith without the flat plane that they need, and then just say zenith. So they don't mind zenith. The thick ones don't mind zenith. Or the more intelligent ones that know the thick ones don't mind it, so they use it because they're intellectually dishonest.
Well, the problem with that train of thought or thinking is you got to define what zenith is. Something directly above you, straight vertical. I mean, just like a plumb bob. Okay, so once we define that, then what tool are you using? Oh, it's a sextant. Well, what's that? Well, that's an angle measuring device. Oh, well, what makes an angle then? Well, two straight lines that meet at a point called a vertex. So you need two straight lines for an angle. Okay, once you get your angle, what do you minus it from? Or subtract, should I say? Oh, from 90. Your zenith.
Don't mention 90.
They got nowhere to go, Nathan.
Yeah, they haven't. They've genuinely got nowhere to go. You know, and a few examples of recent times have been confessions of a flat plane. It's not their automatic assumption of a sphere Earth. They've got to get around the fact they're measuring angles off a flat plane. So when you quiz them on that particular stage of their endeavour, they'll deny their sphere belief at that point, because they've got no option. They've got to measure it off a flat plane. So obviously at that point they're not begging the question of a sphere. I mean, technically that's just them giving us a flat Earth, right? Well, no. That's you needing a flat Earth to make this claim in the first place, which means that everything thereafter that you claim with a curved adjacent doesn't work with the original measurement. They've got literally nowhere to go. Earth's flat. We can prove it. Can't get an elevation angle from a curved adjacent. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon formerly known as Earth curve.
No, you're going to need R for that. That was a black swan. And the black swan, they haven't got that yet. And the Sexton argument is taking them back to the black swan, and they still don't get it.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
None whatsoever. My goodness, none of us have ever experienced Earth turning and us on it while it's turning. Simple test. Go up in a hot air balloon and let the Earth turn under you. It doesn't happen.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, it's just a light in the sky. You can need R for any distance measurements anyway, and they don't got that.
Well, on that one, when Eratosthenes assumed light angles were coming in parallel to a flat plane, that's how he was measuring it, right? He just assumed that the shadows were caused by sunlight that was parallel. Well, that's not what we see.
No, in fact, Nathan, I'm going to post a picture right now, Master B. I'm glad John brought up that topic. It's coming your way as I speak. 90% and 100% complete. Master B. Tell me when you have it.
But yeah. The reason I bring that one up is because you can take the observer and dip angle, all of that part of the argument out, and then you just address the flat plane and the measurement you're taking on it.
Let me know when you want me to comment on this picture.
Yeah, I've got the picture up, but you're completely right, John. You're going to need a flat plane in the first instance, so that's all we're ever going to focus on. And this is step one, where they're going to go. Well, we've seen where they go. They deny their sphere belief because they've got to. Go ahead, take this up.
Okay, as one could look at this beautiful picture, can anyone literally look at this picture and say that the sunlight is coming in parallel? Anyone?
It isn't.
Of course not, because you can see it. It's right there. But they're telling us that sunlight comes in parallel, which is essential for their model. Because for them, they have to assume the Earth is a sphere, number one, assumption, but you ain't got R. And number two, that sunlight is coming in parallel with that number one assumption, your second assumption, sunlight coming in parallel. Because then you can have corresponding angles if you were to trick everyone that the actual measurements were coming from the center of this pre-assumed globe that doesn't exist because you don't have R. But you also need, once you get that lie out, you also need the sun to cooperate with you. Well, the sun is not cooperating with you because sunlight doesn't come in parallel. And so it's not going to hit the surface at the parallel ray for you to say you have a corresponding angle to the center of something that doesn't exist. So look at where the sun is and look at the rays going down divergent. But then look at above the clouds and between those two parts. Do you see as the sun is setting or going away from us, it does light the bottom of clouds. Now, how does that do that? Well, because the sun rays are divergent. You can see it's going down to the ocean, but it's also going up, but it's also going sideways. How in the world can you be honest with yourself and say this is parallel rays to give your globe half a chance?
Oh, well, I'll tell you how they do it. They put it in Muppet vision, like everything they do. Oh, well, if you see the side of your own head and a view of Earth from about 500,000 miles away, and the sun not to scale, then I can draw straight lines between the sun and Earth. This is obviously a perspective view. If I remove all aspects of physical reality and put it in a view that you can never obtain, then I can draw them straight.
The parallel sun rays on our globe, if it's looked at correctly, would mean there would be a winter for everyone on the world in June and July, and a summer for everyone on the world in December and January. It's complete and utter nonsense. Besides the fact that it's not real, it also wouldn't work. Hello, everyone. Hey, Nathan.
Hey, Brian. Brian's for the audience's benefit. Brian's describing the heliocentric claim distances during northern hemisphere summer and winter. So the distance of Earth from the sun in the heliocentric model is further in our summer in the quote-unquote northern hemisphere than it is in the winter. So it's actually the Earth, it's closest to the sun in the northern hemisphere winter. So there you go. Just going to ask this question before I read out this super chat. Any evidence of the R value?
No, but I have a lot of people claiming that the horizon is physical in my comments of my latest videos.
Did they touch it? Is that what they're saying? They touched the horizon?
Oh, right,
Well, they're saying that.
Nathan,
Well,
I got a couple more pictures while Brian's talking. If you want to show.
I've got a super chat to read out as well. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, yeah. They're trying to tell me about how much dip there will be to the horizon from certain heights, and they're trying to take still shots of one of the videos. The show is all about the horizon, and they're trying to curve it as much as possible and claim it's physical.
Okay, so as Adam's not here, I'll do it on his behalf. So that's then back to claiming the horizon's a physical geometric limitation known as Earth curve, debunked by the Black Swan. So they're back to drawing a tangent line to it, right, Brian? Oh, how quickly we forget. It's only been 2 years of you telling us that you don't have that straight line. For you to now just tell us that you've got a straight line and you can measure the dip to it. Oh, no. No, Black Swan. We've debunked your geometric tangent point horizon that you're now calculating dip for. It's all refracted in atmosphere, sphere-shaped air at a rate based on R that you can't get anymore. So, Colby Boneman, hopefully I'm saying your name probably incorrectly, but there we go. Thank you very much for the super chat. It says, my long-time friend of mine, or a long-time friend of mine, claims to have, quote, done the math, but can't give me a straight answer for the R value. What other metrics should I ask him for? He only needs R. Every claim that they make is based on R, with an exception. I used to say that every single claim to be globe-proof would start with the assumption of the R value, i.e. that the Earth's a sphere radius 3959. That's not true. Some of their claims require a flat plane in the first instance. So the other metric would be to ask him how he can acquire an elevation angle with a curved adjacent. That would be a sphere Earth beneath his feet. I'll just repeat that. Ask him how he can acquire an elevation angle with a curved adjacent. That would be a sphere Earth beneath his feet.
And with those parallel sun rays, they're still measuring an angle somehow because, Eratosthenes supposedly measured the angle at the well and the angle in Siam, or was. But he measured an angle. He didn't have to worry about a dip angle. He didn't draw in a geometric horizon. He didn't do any of those things. He just used a flat plane.
He did, didn't he? Just measure the angle. Utilised an elevation angle to gain. What's that? A flat plane? Yeah, that's right. That's what you're using when you measure an angle. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
That's just silly.
Well, if you accept everything else is true, and that you can get an angle with the curved adjacent, and that the horizon is a physical geometric obstruction, then, it won't be that hard to convince you that something's violating, the second law of thermodynamics on the inside of Earth.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Do you need a container, Nathan?
Yes, you do. To press upon.
Do you need it?
Pressure.
Do you really need a container?
Yes, let's quote conspiracy cats. Quote, without the container there can be no pressure, end quote.
So it's pressing on something.
Yes, hence the term pressure. So no evidence you can have gas pressure without a container. In this image now, the blue bit is claimed to be a sky vacuum. An area of volume the gas we're breathing could fill. Because gas expands in all directions and will only change direction if it's impeded by something. So, Once the gas reaches what they claim to be the Kármán line, there is nothing impeding it from carrying on into the blue bit in this picture, which is claimed to be a vacuum. We'd all be dead if space was real, because the gas we breathe would fill that space. Entropy increase. Check out the second law of thermodynamics. Got a couple more questions before we get to the rest of your pictures. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Negative.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No.
Not yet.
Apparently, if you're a heliocentrist in that field, you'll have to assume a flat plane to acquire an angle to then ignore that measurement and assume a radius to assert.
Oh no, they won't
Any kind
ignore
of
the measurement. No, just got to correct you. They'll utilise the measurement they took from the flat plane we all dwell atop to move forward and assert that the plane they measured to give them the angle to make the assertion that it's bent no longer exists. I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but they're absolutely going to utilise that angle that they took. The measurement from the flat plane will be the basis of every bullshit claim for a sphere thereafter. You're going to need a flat plane for that sphere claim. Right, 10th, that's done. We're housekeeping finished. All done. I've got your second picture up with the sun looking more like it's just shining down than up, obviously with less clouds directly above it.
Yeah, I mean, you can just look at any image under divergent rays on the internet, and you can see all different ways of how the light is going divergent. And when you have clouds in the way, it makes it even more exceptional. So when we showed the ones a year ago, it was a video time lapse of clouds over Houston, and the rays were coming divergent as seen in these pictures. And when they hit the building cast a shadow based on the angle of the ray. So goodbye, Eratosthenes.
But wasn't he measuring angles?
my whole point is if the sun's directly overhead, it doesn't cast a shadow, or it's very tight over a pole. As it moves away from the pole, the direction of the shadow increases and increases as the sun is getting lowered to the horizon. And that could only happen on a flat plane.
I realise that I'm completely undermining your point, which is perfectly valid, 10th. But as John just made that point in the interim while you were waiting to round out your perfectly valid point that's now being undermined by John, I mean, when it's done to me, I can't remember I think it's axial rotation. So I'll go through, because I'm quite smug in the fact that I've got a pretty comprehensive understanding of Coriolis drift at this stage. I don't mind saying so myself. And when I go through that, now completely useless information, and John just says you're going to need half of that, it essentially undermines every aspect of that exemplary knowledge of Coriolis drift, which we don't have on a turning Earth, because we're not on a turning Earth. Meanwhile, you've only got to say, yeah, you're going to need an R value for that axis that you're claiming with a rotation value in radians. You're going to need half of that, undermining the entire argument, right, like I've just done to you. But just because I've done it and I want the audience to be clear about this, and you clearly don't want to reiterate John's point for him, what was he doing again? What was he measuring now, John?
John's gone.
He's got kidney issues at the moment. I want to make the point.
he's measuring an angle.
I was going to need a flat plane for that.
Indeed.
Yes, your point's perfectly valid, 10th. Absolutely. The light isn't coming in parallel. No amount of Muppet vision with the Earth and the Sun both in the same image is going to save you from the fact that that is not what it does in reality. Here it is on screen.
Well, that's why this can be the year of the sun, because it's joined to the sextant. You just don't shoot the sun, obviously, with a sextant. You can shoot the moon and stars and 57 navigational stars and some planets, Mars and stuff like that. But the whole point is that light has to come in parallel, because they are saying, look, okay, now this is me talking outside of me. look, we know you can't get an angle from a curved adjacent, so we got to get it from the center of the earth, and that doggone light better come in parallel or else we're busted.
Yeah, don't. They're busted. Shout out to Good Servant, who's joined for another 17 months. Good Servant's actually a YouTuber, so check him out. He's got a Christian stream, and he has quite some in-depth discussions. So I was listening yesterday. Good show, by the way, Good Servant. Go and check him out on YouTube, as he does a live stream, typically on a Sunday. Maybe you do others, but I haven't caught them. But thank you very much indeed for renewing, I presume, your Nathan Oakley 1980 channel membership, Good Servant. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much indeed. So as I said at the start of the show, when everyone wasn't particularly warmed up, even though we had half an hour of pre-show, we've won. There's going to be people who see the title and go, oh, it's not much of a debate. Well, no, it's not. We've won. You we can take on the people who come into this stream with our arms tied behind our back. Now, typically, I've got no particular interest in visiting the Muppets that are out there on the anti-Flat Earth side, but there are occasions that are remnants of the disdain I held when I did have a tiny degree of empathy towards these people still remains. Hence, I went on to Charles's show to call him a liar, which he is. Because that's what it's now boiling down to. You know, the only interest I've got in proactively going out towards these people is to show them to be the outright scum of the earth, lying through their back teeth people that they actually are. And tell them to their face. Because they need to know. These people need telling. You're just liars at this point. Now, if you don't want to accept the arguments that have absolutely annihilated your position, then you become a liar. Because that's the only position you can take. Reassert that something's not debunked when it clearly is. Well, head in the sand arguments aren't going to work either if you're just ignorant. But the people who are out there on the circuit aren't ignorant. A lot of them are reasonably intelligent people, some of them highly intelligent people, which leads me to only one conclusion. They're liars. Ignorance isn't an excuse at that point. So, talking to you, Globe Believers, you're all liars, because that's what you're doing when you're not here, at the tip of the iceberg, dealing with this head on. That's us. Now, we're in the minority. You shouldn't have anything to fear from us. You didn't in the past. But you do now, don't you? And you should fear us, because we're destroying your religion. And you hold that very tightly now, don't you? We know just how tightly you'll hold it in the face of adversary and all of the contradictory evidence that's presented to you on an almost daily basis. So, you can go out on other circuits where people are a bit less clued up and lie about aspects of your religion that have been debunked here. Well, that's fine by me. I said it a couple of years ago, I'll keep saying it. Yeah, if it's quiet and there's no one here to defend the undefensible, that's fine by me. There would be if it was real. They'd be here in droves like they were at the start of the debate. Because back at the start, we didn't understand the arguments as flat earthers. We were the ignorant ones. And the oh-so-righteous, globe-believing Muppets piled in en masse to tell us how wrong they were. Because they could win. And if we had anything to say in reply, they could shut us down. With the universally available mute button in Google Hangouts that's no longer around. Now, what have they got to present? Lie about needing R like Charles does? What are you going to do? Back the liars? If you're watching these people and we are pointing it out in a very overt way, yeah, he's lying. You all know damn well you need R. Him saying I don't need it because he's got to measure a flat plane, yeah, that ain't going to fly either. Because that's just our victory. Lying about your loss won't help you at this stage. It'll just have someone like me coming on your own show telling you you're a liar to your own audience. There we go. That's the state of play in 2020. Sorry to keep jabbering. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say at this point, we don't even have to speak to destroy their arguments. If we were there with them and we had a finger, we could just point at the baseline they're using to make their claims.
Precisely. You're going to need a flat plane for that. I'm happy. I'm very happy because I hate getting into the position where you've got to understand the begging the question fallacy that they used in the first instance to undo it from within. It's always annoyed me. Hence me focusing so much on their requirement for an R value to make that begging the question fallacy work in the first instance. If they haven't got it, they can't beg the question. So, that's where we were at with the Black Swan. Now, the argument for the sextant starts with a flat plane. They don't have to get into the wrangle-dangle of what they're going to do after they've assumed R. They can't. They've got to measure an angle and they're going to do it with a baseline that's flat. So it really is game over if they get here. The first thing they're going to do is, where's Wally? He'll probably be the first and last to do it. They come in, tell us about how they're measuring flat planes so they can go forward to presuppose the ground that they've just measured flat's actually curving and they've got a difference when they're measuring a satellite in claimed to be geostationary orbit in a sky vacuum that doesn't exist, with a measurement that doesn't stack up when we actually double-check the maths. Meanwhile, they've just bent the very line that they've used and measured flat. So when you say to them, why aren't you measuring a curved adjacent? You're claiming the ground's curved and you're measuring it flat. You think you're on a sphere. Their reply is, quote, no, I don't. Open brackets, think I'm on a sphere, close brackets.
Epic.
Well, telling us you don't think you're on a sphere because you have a necessity to measure a flat plane is just proof we're on a flat plane. That's where we're at in 2022. We ain't going anywhere. Quiet is good. I like it. Go ahead, sorry.
Did he use that argument to try to get Bitcoin?
Yes. Telling me, no, I don't, when asked why he's not needing a curved adjacent, i.e. curved Earth, to measure beneath his feet. Yeah, when asked or told, you think you're on a sphere, he told me, no, I don't. Because at that stage of his argument, he's got to measure a flat plane. So being on a sphere at that point isn't part of the argument. So he's got to deny being on a sphere to take the first step, which is measure a flat plane, to then take the angle measured on a flat plane to assert it's not flat unmeasurable anymore, paradoxically speaking.
I wonder if he approached Mark Sargent after that and tried to demand Bitcoin from him after declaring how flat it was.
Dave Weiss, but yeah. Yes, he did. Yes, he went to Dave Weiss and doubled down, I asked. Yes, he did do exactly that. These people are delusional. Doesn't matter how many times they get pointed out in the comments, hello, in quotes, you think you're on a sphere, end quote. Where's Wally, quote. No, I don't, end quote.
Wait, but isn't the Bitcoin thing proving a sphere? You have to prove a sphere to get Bitcoin.
Yeah, you get Bitcoin if you come up with globe proof. He told us he doesn't think he's on a sphere whilst measuring an angle on a flat plane. Now, he didn't get to the point where he took that flat plane measurement and tried to assert that the ground was actually bent when he measured it as straight. He didn't need to get there, because when I asked him why he wasn't measuring it curved, he told me he didn't think he was on a sphere. Now, when I quizzed him on it, or when I replied to one of his comments, chanting that he needed Bitcoin, and I kid you not, yeah, he told me that he thought I was begging the question for him at that stage. That was his defence. So yeah, what are you going to do? You've got to measure a flat plane first to make any of these claims. Conspiracy Cats was the first to do it. He just managed to slip it under the radar to a certain degree, because it wasn't the year of the sextant.
What was it a Conspiracy Cat said? I'll even give you the flat plane.
Yeah, because he had to.
Yeah, I'll give it you. Well, okay. Do it without. Now measure the angle you made every single one of those Blackpool Swan claims with a curved adjacent. Oh, what's that? You can't? So you're going to need a flat Earth for every single globe claim you made in that example. Oh dear, Cats. That's unfortunate. How embarrassing to now be raped by me live on air. Cats proved a flat plane when he declared that he was going to give us a flat Earth. He couldn't do it if he didn't have one. Can't get an angle from a curved adjacent, can you?
That's correct.
How embarrassing. So where are all these fuckwits now? Cats, talking to you, fuckwit. Yeah? Let's go back over the Blackpool Swan claim. Let's do like I did with math. Flat Earth math. Charles, Cats, I'll meet you anywhere you like. And I'll ask you how you measure the elevation angle for the Blackpool Swan claims, every single one of them, with a curved adjacent. That's my question. Write it down, because that's the only thing I want an answer to. Your Blackpool Swan, what, 4 straight months of claims that needed a flat plane to make them? Yeah, that's going to need resolving. Right now. I don't mind where I meet you. I need to know how you measured a curved adjacent to make any of those claims, because if every single one of those claims of angles that you used in the Blackpool Swan were taken off a flat plane, then all you did was prove a flat plane.
Yeah, and you got Charles still in your chat when you add your show the other day, defending himself. saying,
you mean
when
lying?
have I lied?
Yeah, doubling
Yeah,
down on
so-
his lie. He's made 3 consecutive videos about whether or not he needs R, and every time I see him in any comment ever, he's using R. And I'm underneath you, Anna Charles, going, this man above me's a liar. There he is with the R value he denied needing and wouldn't give him a measurement for, but there it is in his comment. What, the R? Why would I need R? Why am I constantly making videos about whether or not I need it when every comment I make needs it? Yeah, because he's a liar. Charles is a liar. Like Katz is a liar. They're all scummy liars. The teachers in this arena are the ones that I despise the most. Right, their tongues are ripped out in hell.
Well, his defense when I addressed it to him was, well, I said globe model and flat model.
Oh, so my false dichotomy means that because half of it needs R, I don't need R? Yeah, that's just his lie. Intellectual dishonesty? No, just a blatant lie. I've got a flat Earth compared to an R-based sphere Earth, therefore I don't need R. That's his lie. That's the essence of his lie. Yeah, do you like it, Charles? Flat Earth math? Yeah? When you're getting commenters pointing out that you are a liar... Also, the apple won't fall far from the tree, Charlie. Bet you wish you didn't bring up your children when I asked you for an R measurement, because I'll bring them up every single time I bring up your lie about R. Because that was the response I got from him. My kid's name Mercury! No, I asked you for an R measurement, Charles. Not about your kids' names. But yeah, the apple won't be falling far from that lying tree, will it?
Yeah,
So,
I
yeah,
couldn't believe that.
Go on.
I couldn't believe he brought his kid into the argument rather than just answer the damn question. That's creepy.
Yeah, he probably did it because he thought if I bring my kids in, they'll get attacked by this flat earther and I can use that and focus on that. Yeah, every time I bring them up in response, I point out that he was the one to throw him into the argument when asked for an R measurement. The one he didn't give me and lies about perpetually. That same R lie that he makes. Well, he dragged his kids into it when he was asked in my chat. That's what he does. Well, doesn't change the fact that every single time he asserts a sphere Earth, he needs an R value. The 3959 blurted out, they muted me. Yeah? He can't measure it anymore. So when that's pointed out, he says he doesn't need it. He lies. Well, you'll just go down forever in history as a liar, Charles, because that is precisely what you are. A liar. No two ways about that anymore. Keep doubling down on it so people can see you lying to them too in the comments.
Yeah, and if you're figuring something out, you're measuring it. That whole, we got to know the shape first. We got to figure out the shape first. That's the whole point in measuring.
Yeah, what a crap line that was.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that one either. That was like, but that's why he's asking you for the measurements that you're claiming to figure this out with.
Yeah, he lied about that too. Figuring things out isn't measurements according to flat Earth math. Yeah, when we're figuring it out, we're not doing math. It's not exactly my name or anything. I don't mean figuring it out because obviously I can't measure R. So I'm going to lie about needing it and say that figuring out doesn't mean measuring anymore. Just a liar. And I'm happy to bang on about it all the time. Because Charles, holier than now with his smug grin, portrayed himself as Mr. Honest. Well, as is always the case, the biggest con men have got the widest smile. And that's what Charles is, a con man. And he'll lie to your face like he lied to mine. It's just most people won't realise they're being lied to, because con men are really good at lying. Charles is really good at lying, and when he's caught out, he'll double down on the lie, because most people won't believe the lie if he's saying he hasn't told it. Well, that's all right, Charles. I'll still be here next week telling people about how you've lied about needing R in every comment that you use it in, which is all of them.
And if they...
Oh, go on, Brian.
Sorry. Yeah, and if he's stating we need to figure out what shape it is, that means he's automatically looking straight past it ever being a horizontal plane. Because horizontal plane is not a shape, it's an aspect. So when he states, and any of them state, we need to figure out what shape it is, it means they're making a point of looking past the reality that we deal with all the time.
And it's not like we don't understand what shape they automatically presuppose when we've been here for 7 years. Suddenly their basic premise that we're on a sphere has to be denied. That's what I'm talking about. We can add Charles to that list. It's not just where's Wally. Because Charles has done the same. When it comes down to brass tacks, he's got to deny the premise of his claim in the first instance. Oh, well, we don't know. So first we must, quote, figure out the shape, ignoring all aspects of a flat plane. Because it's got a shape. Yeah, we know you think it's a sphere, though. Oh, no, because that would mean I need to give you an R value I know I can't measure, so I'm going to lie and say I don't need that. Figure out the shape is what I'll blart out 50 times, because it seems like I don't need to assume R in that statement, when I've spent the last 7 years that I'm aware of telling everyone Earth's a sphere, and every example and every video and every comment has that assumption that needs R in it. But I'll deny needing it. Even when I'm commenting about Earth being a sphere and the, quote, heliocentric model, I'll deny needing it because he's a liar. Charles, flat Earth maths, just scum.
Well, even with that, Sexton as an angle measuring device needs a baseline for measurement, and the circle of equal altitude, the radius of the GP of the sun or moon or star, could be 4,000 miles. That has to be a straight line to the observer. So just using the Sexton, you already know that the surface you measured is flat, horizontal, straight for that distance, and you could double that because the diameter would be double that, because someone could be on the other side of that circle of equal altitude on the same circumference of the circle getting the same angle.
All shapes have a center. All shapes would have a center. Now, they wouldn't all have a radius, obviously, it's not a circle or a sphere, but all shapes have a center. So when they're trying to find out what shape it is, they're stating that they're working off the pre-assumption that there is a center point.
But why do you have to skirt around the fact that they assume a sphere? Suddenly it's got to be, no, we'll start off by figuring out the quote-unquote shape. Sorry, are we suddenly under the misapprehension that you think you're on a sphere? Because I'm pretty much convinced that that's your position, unless you want to deny it. When you're measuring the flat plane you'll need. Right, cats? Yeah, you'll give us that, will you? Yeah, I'll give you something when we speak. Make sure we all let know cats. No. I'll meet him wherever the hell he likes. My question I specifically want an answer to, though, given that he's begged for the last God knows how long to meet me on a quote-unquote neutral platform, like Charles is where he can mute me when I ask him for an R measurement. Yeah, I'll meet you on that neutral platform, cats, and ask where you got an elevation angle when you, quote, gave us a flat Earth. How'd you measure the same exact angle off a curved adjacent? That's what I'll be asking.
Well, I just want to, sorry for cutting in, I just want to put this out there that the Britannica definition of a measurement always involves some interaction between the object and the observer or the observing instrument. There's always an exchange of energy. I want to see where any of that takes place on this globe.
It doesn't. They've got a reified model only. It doesn't exist in reality.
Whereas Wally sent me a video into one of my newer videos, posted a video as a link in the comments. He's said to me, just going to give you a heads up, Brian, this is going to become a thing. This is what he said, right? What it is a video of this other guy, Scientism, out, who uses pre-assumed globe data, right, to show where there was a volcano eruption and what parts of the world got the aftershocks first and all this kind of stuff. And magically, it matches the globe. So, of course, the only question I asked the both of them, and I don't think I got any reply from any of them, is, was there a 15-degree of an hour drift of the smoke? No.
I didn't understand that, Brian.
Sorry, Nathan. Yeah. Basically, they have a claim about a volcano eruption, right? That's their latest globe claim. And how it matches a globe, all the aftershocks of this eruption matches a globe. But, right, the only question I asked, where's Wally, and this other guy called Science It Out, is, was there a 15-degree an hour drift of the smoke from the volcano? You know, because...
I still don't follow. How does their claim prove a sphere? I appreciate your rebuttal.
It's because they have pre-assumed globe calculations that match the aftershocks. So where the volcano went off, the places in the world that got the first aftershocks match a globe, right? But the calculations all pre-assume, because I looked into this before, it all preassumes the globe. So they're like the aftershocks, where the aftershocks of the volcano affected first, match a globe only because it's already pre-assumed that it is a globe. It's all a calculation.
You need art for that.
Well, yeah, you'll need art for that. But
Are the
That's
aftershocks
ridiculous.
in lockstep as well?
well, yeah. But what Brian's saying is there's a correlation between a presupposition of a globe model and an earthquake, and the predictions that the presupposition of a globe model make in terms of that earthquake, and them saying that the physical reality of the earthquake matches the presupposition of the globe model and its predictions. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, it was a volcano, not an earthquake.
Volcano.
Yeah, and the only question I asked is, was there a 15-degree in air drift of the smoke coming out of the volcano?
Did he blow his top when you told him?
Good one, Brian.
That's all that matters, isn't it?
Hey, Nathan, I want to give the sun some more time. I got some more slides after that last image. If
By the way, the Himawari thing, they had that from space. They showed that volcano.
Yeah, Mitchell has a video about that. Paul on the plane, he made a video, and Mitchell shared it. Paul on the plane.
Yeah, what you're talking about? Is that what this is talking about? I don't know why I keep hearing earthquake. Yeah, I keep hearing earthquake. I still don't understand how it can correlate with the globe model. When you say it correlates with the globe model, what's to correlate?
No, it's a volcano eruption, and what it is.
The tsunamis that happened after.
The data.
Just let me just explain my objection, Brian, because I don't want you to go through it a third time. Right. So if I say I've got a hot dog model of Earth, and on the hot dog, the tip of the hot dog's got this particular position where this volcano goes off, and I say, look, my hot dog model of Earth predicted where the aftershocks, did you say, would go, and the smoke and things like that. Yeah? But so what? Correlating my hot dog with that, what does it? How does it prove it? I fail to follow how the claim in the first instance proves the sphere.
Yeah, but that's it. It's just a begging the question. It's just all their data is based on the globe. So they're just begging the question. They don't have our value.
Okay.
And as I said, what I asked about the smoke was there a 15-degree in air drift of the smoke that was coming out of the volcano?
Okay.
No,
okay. Just one sec, John. The reason I'm kind of doing this is because why did I? It's where's Wally? You've said at the start of this is something that's going to be a big deal. So you expect more than 2015 level garbage. You don't expect it to be this base, so you just begging the question of a sphere model then. You don't expect it to be. You think there's going to be a bit more substance to it. So I'm looking for substance where there's none there. It's just crap. Well, okay.
the problem with the hot dog model is even if it loses, it's a winner all the time.
There is substance to this argument, though.
Hold on. Is everyone catch up on this?
Nice. I'm glad you mustered that up.
No, they're measuring, like when they receive these signals, they're going to assert that there's an angle that they're receiving them from, and correlate that to a sphere. Well, what do you need for an angle?
Can't think of a pun.
I really relish these conversations.
Oh, damn you!
You know, you're too fast for me.
Right, I've got your onion.
Pictures of this. Okay,
I've got
thank
you a picture of an onion ring up.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so let's take the globe model down again. So this is what they're saying has to happen. You can see the sun and rays are parallel. And then if we go to the next slide, you're going to see parallel sun rays. These angles are the same, and it shows a spherical Earth. Are you on that one already?
Yes.
Nathan? Okay, good. So that first one shows it from that view. This one shows it from this view, and this is a must for them. This has to happen. Forget about everything if this doesn't happen. Go to the third picture, and we're going to show sun rays coming into Cyan and Alexandria, our good friend Eratosthenes, and you can see that one. And then The next picture shows you a more colorful version of Alexandria and Cyan and how the sun rays must come in parallel for it to all work. So we can go to that one. So it's very important on their model that the angle is taken from the center of a presupposed sphere, and the sun has to cooperate. It's got to be parallel rays, or it's not going to work. And then what do we see with the re-image of the divergent rays in real time? Our reality is that picture of what the sun is actually doing over this plane. If you can show that picture of the divergent rays in the clouds and over the ocean. So it's impossible for them to get the sun to cooperate with them. Okay. So then what would happen if you have divergent rays on a flat plane? Go to the next picture. And you see a horse area with fencing. And obviously, you can just by this picture know where the sun is, even though you don't see it, because the shadows cast where it is. You could tell because you've experienced this yourself. Go to the next picture. And you can see in this park where the sun would be. Is the sun coming from the right or is the sun coming from the left? The shadows are cast to the right, so the sun's coming from the left, right? And then the last picture, everyone's seen their own shadow. Is the sun in front of you? No. Is the sun directly overhead of you? No. It must be behind you because you're casting a shadow. And since we know it doesn't come in parallel, the globe model dies right there because the sun has to cooperate with their fictitious globe model, center of the earth measurement, and it doesn't. That's why the sextant is such a good argument.
Epic.
Well, I just wanted to bring something up about the P waves, S waves, and volcanic measurements. They're going to assert that there's an angle that they're receiving those signals from. In that argument, at some point in that argument, they have to assert they took a measurement with an angle that they're receiving that signal from.
Okay, so you're
and
saying
they'll need a flat plane for that.
I thought you were going towards you're going to need R for that, but you're going to need a flat plane for that. Hold on, measure. So you're saying when they measure the angle from the primary and secondary waves, they're going to need a flat plane to measure the angle from the bounce inside the ground? I don't follow.
Well, yeah, they have to take the measurement from the surface, right? Well, you still have the curved adjacent problem if you don't use a flat plane.
I think I follow. So if you're saying that the presupposition is that the lines are bending around the surface of Earth into the ground, then if you're going to measure an angle of a returning signal through the ground for an angle measurement, then you're going to need a flat plane to acquire it. Doesn't matter that it's coming up through the ground as a returned signal or a returned impulse or however it works. It's still going to need a flat plane for it.
Right. Because then you won't be able to, you're going to be using the ground for your measurement, right?
Yeah, I'm just wrapping my head around it, and yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to get an angle like that if the ground was curving.
Okay.
The sextant wouldn't work if the ground was curving.
No, just one sec. Just one sec. Yes, that's correct. So, in terms of the assertion of P waves and S waves, although we often hear that, but should anybody in the audience encounter this argument, you're going to need a flat plane for that.
Yeah.
Well, how reliable were the P waves and S waves during the Kola Super Deep borehole expedition? How reliable were they? Sorry, 1 second. Just leave it 1 second. How reliable were they for the Haitian earthquake or the Turkish earthquake within the past decade? Where were they then? So they're only reliable when they prove a globe. We all molten iron core, eruption of volcanoes when it suits them. But when it comes to actual reality, they're totally not reliable. So go on, Josh. Sorry.
Yeah, but they're still utilizing a flat plane for those inaccurate claims.
Yeah, the point John's making is regardless of us being able to in the past pull apart the claim based on the inaccuracies that we can demonstrate, call a deep borehole being one example, well, they're going to need a flat plane to make this measurement. So who cares that they got it wrong? It's like, so you do what now? You measure the angle. You're going to need a flat plane for that.
Yeah, whether it's coming from the sky or beneath you, you still, for it to be an angle, you require that flat baseline.
In case people in the audience can't tell, we're all paused for thought over this. You're on fire, John. Epic. I'm so glad there's no extensive knowledge of molten iron core information that I go through on an almost daily basis with fundies that this undermines. Should we say a little prayer now, or what?
Oh boy.
A prayer for the dying.
I was only joking. It was just because there was a moment of contemplation. A bit like now.
Shall we say game over, man?
Game over, man. Game over.
Well, they fell
Especially for the Cowboys.
They fell for the sextant trap. They thought they had something with the artificial horizon and the bubble sextant. Bob took it first. We waited. Mitchell prodded it out beautifully. They bit on everything. And then we had to show them that there's no dip correction requirement when you shoot the horizon at sea level. I mean, I'm sorry. There is dip correction requirement when you shoot the horizon at sea level. There is no dip correction when you use an artificial means, whether an artificial horizon or a bubble, which is an artificial horizon for the navigators who are in the air in an airplane. Because they're assuming a flat plane. That's why you don't take dip. But when you're on the ocean and you're 14 feet above the sea level, you have to get that right angle precise. So you minus or subtract dip, whichever word you like.
Nathan, what was the guy trying to say on Ball Busters at the end with the questions and concerns about the something about refraction and the sextant?
I can't remember. You'll have to remind me.
I'm counting on you because I can't remember either.
Well, let's break it down. What does the sextant do? It's an angle measuring device. It's measuring an angle. So there's your angle. What is the dip correction do? What does all the other corrections do when you're at sea 14 feet above the surface of the sea level? It's calculations that they do to get it to be a perfect right angle, or as much as they can, so they could be only a half a mile off. Because if you're taking sights and you've got refraction at 15, 20 degrees, that's more from the surface and a lot less if you shoot a star that's above that degree line, so say 40 degrees. So they have to do all these corrections, but the sextant initially is taking an angle, and then they do corrections to make sure that angle is a right angle. So what could he be talking about?
He's talking about, I do remember now, celestial refraction. So if you've got a star close enough to the horizon, they take into account celestial refraction. However, celestial refraction isn't terrestrial refraction, and when they're drawing a straight line to make their asserted claimed globe dip correction to bring it back up to a flat horizontal so they can actually measure an angle, when they do that, they're doing it with the pure geometry of a sphere that we've debunked with the black swan, Neil. So when he says refraction, it's like, oh right, so you're saying the sextant has to deal with refraction. No, you're measuring the star, and you don't measure it below, say, 15 degrees, because you'll get inaccuracies, because you're looking through a lot of air, and yeah,
refraction's real. But terrestrial refraction is sphere-based refraction based on R, and nothing to do with the star measurement. That's a different type of refraction. So yes, light bends. Does light bend through sphere-shaped air at a rate of R? No, it does not. That's a totally different refraction that they are not factoring in when they say on a globe dip correction. They're talking about dip with a straight line to a tangent point, Neil.
Got it.
Sorry, Neil, go on.
No, I was just going to say I got it.
Sorry, I jumped in there in your place. Apologies.
Okay, Brian.
When they state anything to do with standard or terrestrial refraction, all they're doing is making a mathematical claim. That's all it is. It's backed by absolutely nothing. As QE says, where do they get the sphere shape there?
Yeah, but that's,
you know what I mean? So
it's a different type of refraction. As Adam has just joined, this is typically your baby, or you're the one who brings it up every time someone else mentions it, Adam. But when they're doing this dip correction, they're making it the physical geometric horizon again. It came up earlier, you just went around, so I basically took your place and said, hey, I'm Adam now, and they haven't got a geometric horizon.
Yeah. For them to be able to make sense of the mathematics, the way they make the mathematics make sense to them, and the adjustment in their head is to realign with the leading edge of a ball. That's the purpose. They recognise that the leading edge of that ball can't be at a tangent to the top of the ball, so they presuppose that that's the case and make an adjustment for it. But again, to bring it back down to a straight line again, as a horizontal line. This is the weird thing again in their head. See, it's a horizontal line perpendicular to the plane, flat to the plane, but see, in their world, that's not right. All you're trying to do is just create something that's in the same orientation as the tangent. Because once you've done that, you're going to take it to the centre of the earth, which is their error, isn't it, really? But yeah, the fundamental premise is that you are reifying the horizon into a physical location that has an angular adjustment away from horizontal.
Right, and that angular adjustment is done by way of their tangent, which is a straight line.
Yeah, teeter-tottering on the top of a ball. Yeah.
Correct, meeting the tangent point, that straight line, meeting the tangent point at a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve, debunked by the Black Swan. So 2 straight years of telling us that that line doesn't exist and is bent. So when you do your dip correction for your sextant, when it's not height of eye correction, the reality of dip correction using a sextant, it's your claimed sphere dip correction, then you're using a straight line we've already debunked, and you've told us for 2 straight years you haven't got. It's all refracted. So you can't do that straight line tangent point dip correction, even though it's folly to begin with, because you haven't got the straight line. Further to that, the actual reality of dip correction is a height of eye correction to bring you down to the horizontal plane. Now, it just by coincidence is the same horizontal plane that they say they're correcting up to. So from a line of sight that's straight down to a tangent point Earth curve edge to correct for the flatness that you're actually going to measure. Either way, the correction is for a flat plane. In both instances, the sphere dip correction is making it flat again. They're doing it erroneously in a manner that doesn't actually comport with the horizon we see. We've debunked their geometric horizon. They haven't got a straight line. They told us for 2 straight years. Any last comments before we round out and ask everyone to stay tuned for the after show?
No, don't round out. I have one more slide that you need to put up. 4 more slides that you need to put up.
4 more slides. You've got 60 seconds.
Yeah, okay, let's do it. Let's go there. Tell me when you're up. It's up. Okay, so the first one, I'm going to make sure I'm with you, is the one from Wiki. So it says here, correct for dip to account for your distance above sea level. Dip refers to the difference between your elevation and the actual level of the horizon. It's pretty clear, isn't it? Next. This one says it gives the dip in minutes of angle for various heights of observer's eye above sea level. Pretty clear there. Next one shows a picture, and it shows a boat with a sextant, and it says height above sea level 2 meters. Must subtract dip of the sea angle. Okay, so you got that. Now we go to the Nautical Almanac and we read what dip correction is. Dip correction is computed in the Nautical Almanac using the formula, and then it says where dip is in minutes of arc and h is the height of eye in feet, the correction includes a factor for refraction. The Air Almanac uses the different formula intended for air navigation. The differences are of no significance in practical navigation. So there are tables that include the refraction, and there are tables that don't. It depends which tables you go, but the tables are always used after the angle is measured with the sextant first.
Perfect.
Excellent.
With that, though, I am going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you first and foremost to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley programming streams, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Another thank you to all of the live participants for hitting the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a programming stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Lines, but then they try to assert there's a direction that those squiggly lines are coming from, right?
Yeah, the rebounded squiggly lines. Or the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they need a flat plane to a certain angle that they're receiving those squiggly lines from.
Well, yeah, you'd need R, wouldn't you? You'd also need the R of the thing that the P and S waves are rebounding off or through to be able to calculate any of it. So, wouldn't you? You'd need...
You need a flat plane first to actually measure the angle that they're coming at.
If you can pretend you've got R's, then you can calculate. It's a bit like with the sextant. You could calculate it if you already do pre-know it. Now the surface is one thing, but to try and pretend that you know the commensurate R values of the different things that the PNS waves are responding to within this gobstopper multi-layered ball, that's where it becomes impossible. We've only got eight down. So to try and interpret these things of something that you can't even get to confirm, which will be based on different R's, I'd be apologetic of the surface, because you take the angle off the tangent, don't you? You can still, if you're going to live in that nonsense world. So you can still live there, but it's the fact that once you get to the other bits, you've got to determine how big these gobstopper bits in the middle are, aren't you?
That raises a question, Adam. So you're saying you can take it off a tangent if you've got obviously all the prerequisite information you just justified. I'm not going to go through it a second time. But do they take the measurement off a tangent plane?
No, they can't, because they've never got R to be able to use that. You've got to have that accurately to be able to quantify it in a geometric term.
So
you're going to do that.
No, I got that. So therefore, how do they measure the angle?
Oh, they assume and work it off for flat.
So, John, so this what you've just done so beautifully. When I was sort of struggling to say anything because I didn't want to sound stupid, mentally I went through the exact process that you've just gone through verbally, and then got to the conclusion, as you've just done with me, is so they're gonna need a flat plane for this then.
Oh yeah, or a tangent creating device, which would be different to I don't know.
Yeah. But
I'm
that's
being
what I'm saying.
apologetic for it, but
You
yeah.
say exactly it's apologetics because you say they could do it off a tangent plane. Is that how they do it? Well, no, because they haven't got an arc and they haven't got a tangent. So no, they definitely don't. So what do they do while they measure it off a flat plane to get the angle?
Yeah.
Well, without
They
the
use horizon
apologetics,
to reference.
so they need a flat plane for this, right? It took me 2 or 3 attempts to wrap my head around it and go, he's right.
They could do it if they were on a ball and had the equipment that wasn't using the horizon and referencing that to generate their so-called tangent, or in our case, the horizontal. So you could, if you were on a ball and you had equipment that referenced the ball, but that's not fundamentally what they are doing. When they do it and they take an angle, they're taking the angle as a reference from the flat baseline.
Right, exactly. So that's like saying, well, if you were actually on a sphere, you would actually have a geometric horizon and you could actually measure it. That's akin to saying that list of statements, is it not, Adam? Because I'm just saying I spin that around to say, well, yeah, you could and you would and you'd have to if it was a ball. But it's not and they don't, so they absolutely require and measure it on a flat plane.
Yes, totally. Yeah. Conceded.
Excellent point, John. I just think it's brilliant. I like that Adam, I'm not saying you struggled with it cognitively, Adam, because you verbalised it immediately as you were processing it, which I couldn't do. I had to step back for a second and go, bloody hell, no, that can't be right. There's got to be a flaw in this. No, they do. It's just the case. It shouldn't be a shock, but it sometimes still is. They're going to need a flat plane for that. Why is that a shock? It shouldn't be, should it? Right, we all know. So why is it a shock? Yeah, clearly I'm demonstrating some of the remnants of heliocentric programming still leaking out when I'm shocked at this sort of stuff. I shouldn't be.
Well, if it's a flat plane...
Go on, John.
If it's a flat plane, they're going to have to measure it to assert that they're measuring reality. So that it'll always have a flat plane in it.
Yep.
Nathan, I got 2 more slides. I'd like Adam to join me in on these 2 slides in commentary.
Okay, I got your first one. Center of Earth, height of eye.
Yeah, so we've seen this one. So you can see it's a height of eye correction, and then they use the Muppet vision to make you think you're on the sphere. So the actual horizon, if height of eye is 0 minutes and 0 seconds, is the dotted line. Okay, and then they got that phony angled horizon, which is supposed to be their geometric horizon that no one sees. And then it says dip correction is eye level with the sea. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is their own slide. So with that as a background, go to the next slide. This is where they're stuck. Altitude, the angular distance of celestial object above an observer's horizontal plane. Okay, define horizontal. We'll get there. There are published tables of the altitudes of various celestial objects. However, it is difficult to obtain a stable horizontal reference on a moving ship. The horizon provides a very stable reference, and we can use a sextant accurately measure the altitudes of a celestial object with respect to the horizon. Figure 2 shows the relationship between the horizontal and the horizon. They are related through the angle called dip. Dip of horizon. The dip of horizon is the angular depression of the horizon below the horizontal plane. If you were taking sights on a stable land site, we could measure altitudes using a theodolite with its horizontal established using a bubble level. At sea, however, nothing is stable except the horizon. We use sextant at sea to measure the altitude of a celestial object with respect to the horizon, and then use our dip calculation to change the altitude reference from the horizon to the horizontal, where the eye would be on the sextant. So go to the previous slide. So because you're not on land, you don't have the bubble. They fell for the sextant trap there. They use what they can at sea the most stable thing, the horizon. Then they do dip correction, height above that horizon, and say, this is my horizontal that a bubble section would have given me or an artificial horizon would have given me. They're proving it for us.
Did you hear that with respect to the horizon part? That used to be a big part of heliocentrism.
Yeah, with respect to Earth curve.
Except with respect to the horizon here, it makes that sea level the same as your horizontal, flat. So you get your baseline. It's not a curved adjacent. That's the whole point. The dotted line is a baseline, and the actual horizon at your eye, the horizontal, is a baseline. And as long as you got that right angle triangle, you're going to be able to navigate using the almanac.
Yeah. So first, this is labelled actual horizon. The dotted line, that has absolutely sod all to do with the sphere that you need in order to gain 90s and draw boxes and do Euclidean geometry. All of those things ignore the sphere below. However, they assert they've got this horizon. What's this horizon? Is it the actual horizon? Is it the horizon we see? No, it's just labelled horizon. Nevertheless, it's got a straight line to a tangent point. Hello? It's only been 2 years of you telling us that you don't have this anymore, but suddenly it's here in this diagram and justifying how you'll correct this straight line you don't have to the flat plane / actual horizon. Well, you can just use the actual horizon. No sphere needed.
Notice the bottom left of that picture. Dip correction is eye level with the sea, and it shows the solid line or the dotted line, Nathan?
It's referencing the dotted line and the actual horizon. Again, absolutely devoid of any association whatsoever with this sphere and this straight line that even if they still believe they're on a sphere, they don't have anymore. Black swan. It's all bent, according to them. So what's this straight line doing here?
This is their own slide from their own books, and these anti-flat earthers come and tell us dip is not what this says, but dip is curvature of Earth that we're using somehow, when this doesn't say it's even possible. And that sexing wouldn't work anyway.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, well worth the extra slides. Thanks, Tent.
You're welcome. There's so much more coming. I mean, I just don't have the time right now, but when I do get the time, there's so many things that they have no idea that's going to, because every time they talk, I say, oh gosh, I got them on another one. Okay, well, I got to get those things out. So yeah, this is going to go for a while. This is such a deep subject. We peeled them already because what a sextant can and cannot do, it's an angle measuring device, right? And so that's how it works. And then you just have to define what an angle is. Good luck changing that.
I would like to just point out something on 10th second last diagram there. Go back to it now.
I've got it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, the one where you have the sun and parallel to actual horizon, height of eye, actual horizon, and horizon, blah, blah, blah. At the end there, it says dip correction is eye level with the sea, and it shows a serrated line underneath it, pointing out. Like, even though they have a serrated line up above, which the same exact thing as what Metabunk do, right? They take your focus away from reality by making reality a dotted line. You know, that's what they do. And they bring your focus to non-reality, which is a mathematical horizon. And that's what this is like. Even though this is for the sextant, they are still doing the same thing. The dotted line is actual horizon. It's the sea. They're stating it down below. But they gave it a dotted line. Why did they not have a dotted line to their mathematical horizon? Something is, by the way, something that isn't geometric. They can't ever claim that the geometric horizon is of the globe is it can't be seen, and it's only in the maths, because it can't be a geometric then. It has to be geo-earth metric measured. to be geometric. So they only have a mathematical claim. But they keep on putting their mathematical claim, even in diagrams, ahead of reality. They keep doing it. Even Metabunk are doing it. Like Metabunk, the same. Reality will be a serrated line. Go on.
Right, that's a good point, but that's how they fooled everybody with the orthographic viewing of the way they show it, because they always put a sphere under it, but the sextant can't work with a sphere under it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
Gotta
they
be
can go back
painful.
to
It's got to be painful.
Yeah, it is.
If you're listening to this, right, at the moment, myself, 10th, and Brian are all singing the same song from the same hymn sheet, just in slightly different melodies, let's just say. Yeah? So, this hymn sheet that we're all barking from and singing from at the moment, there's no rebuttal to it. What we're actually showing to make our arguments is your claims. This isn't our picture. It's your picture, with a sphere Earth, centre of Earth, a horizon that doesn't exist, and then it tells you how to ignore everything below this dotted line. Dip correction is the eye level with the sea, and then a dotted line to make absolutely certain you know what they're referring to. So in other words, below this dotted line, literally nothing below the dotted line is anything to do with what you will actually do with the sextant. The dotted line is all you need. And what's the dotted line? Actual horizon. Now Brian's saying, you notice how the dotted line and the actual horizon, the thing you'll see in physical reality, is out here on a white bit of page with nothing around it. So devoid of anything to do with physical reality, it's untrue. It's just a dotted line in the middle of nowhere, not meaning anything. The only thing that could even vaguely be compared to what you might see in reality, even though this is Muppet vision, and you see in the side of your own head, this is you, by the way, looking at the side of your own head, is this point that we debunked 2 years ago with the Black Swan. That's the only thing that seems to be relation to the ground, which is curved and not going to give them an angle measurement. So that's what they do. They draw your attention to a non-physical mathematical horizon that only exists in maths, isn't capable of derivation in reality, debunked by the Black Swan, and then they show you how to actually do the measurement on a flat plane above it. Marvellous rebuttal.
Nathan, go back 2 slides to the one that shows, because I want to...
The one with the sextant and the sun and the sea and the boat. Got it.
Yes. Okay, so here the dotted line, because I'm not taking away from Brian's point whatsoever. He was right on there. But here in this one, the dotted line is the baseline that gave you the angle measuring of 20 degrees to that sun. However, that dotted line came after dip correction, meaning that boat is a certain amount of feet above that sea level that ends up at the horizon to the right. So once you do dip correction and put all the other factors to make a perfectly flat base, then you're able to say that sea level is parallel with that horizontal level, which is where your eye line is, to get that 20 degrees. This can only happen over a flat plane. So when they say, oh, the only purpose for dip correction is to get horizontal to your eye line, that, we agree, that was the sextant trap. The sextant trap says if you use a bubble, you don't do dip because it's already horizontal, because the bubble acts as an artificial horizon. And there is no dip required because it's level. Okay, but on sea, it's not level. You're 14 feet above the boat. You make the correction. Now the sea is one part of the parallel. That's flat. And your horizontal now can be flat because you had to use the actual horizon, but you were at an angle to it because you were above it by 14 feet. So once you make the dip correction, now you got 2 straight lines, your horizontal through the eye and sea level. Everyone get it?
Yeah, I'm going to reiterate your point, because what you're saying on this set of the diagram that Brian was just using, second from last, if you want to follow along in Skype, is that when you're doing dip correction, you do take this dotted line, which represented in that image a moment ago is the dotted line to the horizon from your view in the sextant. However, the sextant trap, as just detailed by 10th Man, would be the claim that you're making this measurement where this blue circle centre of Earth diagram has the word height of eye. That's your actual eyeball in Muppet vision. So that's where you are, above the surface. Well, if you're using a bubble sextant or an artificial horizon, for whatever reason you'd be doing that at that high, I don't know why, by scale it's pretty high, doesn't matter. You don't need the dotted line either. Everything below the solid line that says parallel to
actual horizon. That solid line is what you acquire with your bubble sextant. That's what you're utilising. So at that stage, if you've got an artificial horizon or bubble sextant or any other means of establishing a horizontal flat baseline, you then don't need anything below that line either, because you can draw 90 degrees in this example to the sun to meet that solid line. No correction required. Only a flat earth measurement. You don't do dip. So not only do you not do dip to correct for you looking at the actual horizon, which is this dotted line in the middle of nowhere, well, that dip correction brings you down to the surface. But if you've used a bubble or an artificial horizon, you don't need to do that correction anymore. You've just got a horizontal baseline to get 90 degrees to the sun. And nothing else is required. Flat plane only.
Excellent. Excellent summary.
Hey, Owen. Alrighty then.
While we're waiting for Arwen, I just want to point out something. One of the videos I made last night, I made just 4 short videos, but one of them was something I've been, a drum I've been beating for a good long while now. And, excuse me, 1 second.
There'll be a short pause while Brian chokes.
While he puts that, while Brian comes back, put the last image I put up there because it's laughable.
I'm back. Sorry. Yeah. Something. One of the videos I made last night is about something I've been beating the drum of for quite a while, and the plain truth, Travis agrees with me, right? And that is that inferior mirage, right, requires 2 things. It requires the density of air that we have close to the surface of Earth and sea level, and it requires a physical surface. You will never see inferior mirage at the bottom of an airplane or at the side of a mountain. You'll only ever see it looking across a horizontal plane, across a physical surface, whether it be land or water, right? Now, if you're seeing an inferior mirage at the bottom of a boat, now this is not really for us, this is more for people who are new, right, who don't get all the arguments maybe or whatever. If you're seeing inferior mirage, you're taking a photograph, let's say from 5 foot or 6 foot above the waterline, and you're videoing or photographing at the bottom of a boat with inferior mirage on it, 8 miles away, then that means that water has to be at the bottom of the boat. It can't not be, because inferior mirage won't happen without that. So if you're seeing inferior mirage, it's a bit of a we see too far kind of an argument, but it's good for new people. Is that if you're seeing inferior mirage past what the globe's Earth's mathematical distance is for your observer height, then that means you're seeing physicality. You're seeing a physical Earth. You're not seeing any kind of refraction or anything. Well, you're seeing refraction, but you're not seeing.
No, I see your point. I've got you.
Refraction.
You're saying if you've got a mirage, you've got to have the water meeting that particular thing in physicality to have the mirage below it. Therefore, if that particular item is beyond the physical limitations of a geometric horizon where it would be obscured and is miraged, then it can only be achievable on a flat plane, because their 7/6 refraction with respect to the horizon wouldn't enable them to have the inferior mirage below. You need physicality below to achieve that miraging effect, correct?
Excellent, Ian. That's exactly it.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premium Streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
day.